Welcome back again, everyone, to Northman Reviews. And we are going to go through the epic storyline of Onslaught from the X-Men comics. Um, Back in the, let's see, when did this come out? June of 96. That's so right there. I didn't have to open it up. So, mid 90s, X-Men was still going strong. Probably the only really good series in the Marvel Universe. I mean, hard to say what was actually like really good at the time. Like, I was only reading X-Men. Image was going on strong. DC was doing stuff. I think they'd already gone through their like Death of Superman and Batman Nightfall. So they were trying to bring readers in with new things, and Image, all those Image guys with Wildcats and Youngblood, they were doing their thing. I don't know where they were at this point in their timeline. Anyways, but X-Men, biggest seller, right? They're just all over the place. X-Men animated cartoon is going strong. There's video games, there's toys, and after the Age of Apocalypse, the very first issue of, I think, in Uncanny X-Men, when everything went back to normal, you saw the Juggernaut being... He appeared... I don't have the issue because it was... I mean, I have the issue somewhere, but it wasn't done by an artist that I like. Joe Matt had taken a break from it. But Juggernaut had an encounter with the X-Men. And Juggernaut had been fucked up, like, royally. And he said he was, like, punched or hit or thrown, like, half a country away. Like, he was in Canada, and then he, like, landed in America, in, like, New York. So, and that's a fucking Juggernaut, right? Like, so super strong, Hulk levels. And he couldn't really remember what happened, who did it. He just remembered one word, and it was Onslaught. So that was kind of very ominous. Then... what had happened since? There was X-Men number 50. This is issue number 53. And in X-Men number 50, the X-Men, certain X-Men they encountered his herald, like Galactus and Silver Surfer, right? But Onslaught made this guy, his name was Post, and that's such a ridiculous name. I can't get over it. Rusty is already here, and he's already bothering me on the side. He's distracting me. But Post was testing the X-Men. It was Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, and Iceman. And he basically is like, Onslaught is coming. So they've been building up Onslaught for quite a little while. So we're going to get into this issue. There's more and more backstory that I'll probably like dive into as it's like comes up in these issues. But we'll talk about it as it comes. And I know I'm going to be skipping a lot of stories. Rusty, go away, dude. I'm going to skip a lot of different issues that were tied into this, because this became, like, it was an X-Men storyline, X-Men villain, started with them, but then it just started to encompass the entire Marvel Universe, which eventually led to the Heroes Reborn and bringing back Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee to take over some of those books. So I don't have a lot of those Avengers and Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and Hulk, all those comics that were also crossovers. I don't have all those. If you go on the Marvel Unlimited app, you can read all of that. So I'm just going to focus on the issues that I have and like what I think were the important issues. And I'll try and throw in like the story beats of what we missed from issue to issue, because it is what it is. All right, so we got X-Men number 53, In the Clutches of Onslaught. What this is going to be is the first physical appearance, where you see Onslaught. So this is Andy Kubert drawing it. He was going strong at the time. Take him or leave him with his art. Some people really like it. Some people hate it. My brother Rob and we have another brother, D. He's older than us, and I was talking with him about this recently. He's like, I fucking hate Andy Kubert. I'm like, I get it. I mean, it's a cool cover with Jean Grey being in the clutches of Onslaught, with this huge hand. But I don't know, this body and the pose, it just looks weird and awkward. And these hips, I mean, this leg, like these hips would come way down here. That's a long hip, small torso. It just looks kind of weird, right? But we're in Salem Center, New York, and we're looking through the perspective of Jean Grey, her point of view. And she's walking around Salem Center and talking to this guy, but she can read their minds, right? Because she's a telepath. And so this guy is all nice and, it's a pleasure. Do you need directions? And this guy's, please walk up and down my naked chest in stiletto heels. So even though he's being nice, in his mind he's thinking, God, you're hot, let's do things. So she goes into this dress shop and talks to this lady. And she's like, oh, yes, won't you look lovely in these dresses? They're in the rear. Then she's like, you're a size 8, aren't you? I hate you, just kind of like the jealousy there. And then this young woman who works there also, she's like, yeah, look at this. It's Armandi. Take a look in the mirror. It's like, ew, in her head. You're one of those weirdos from the creepy Xavier mansion up the road. What's the story with you freakazoids? And Rusty, he's just in and out. Hey, buddy. Yes. Please go elsewhere. Thank you. So Jean Grey is just like, she's not talking to herself. It's now a narrator. And always you got to have a lot of words in an X-Men comic at the time. And it's like, she's a telepath and she has to go through this and it sucks for her, but it is what it is, right? That's cool. So she goes into a shop, but suddenly something happens and she's like transported. And she sees this humongous guy here in this fucking armor. Now, Andy Kubert and his pencils, as it says, Mark Waid story, Andy Kubert pencils. Cam Smith with an assist from John Dell on page 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. John Dell on page 6. Then letterings and colors. Joe Rojas colors. Malibu is an enhancement. Probably did some of this crazy stuff here, maybe. Anyway, she gets transported. Like, what is going on? She sees this guy. And this is Onslaught. This is the first time we see him. Now, as I was going to say, this is an impressive fucking figure of Onslaught. A really cool drawing, I think. And a very menacing figure. And it's a good introduction to such a villain. It looks cool. I mean, is his design iconic? I mean, you see his helmet, and that's a Magneto-esque helmet, so that's kind of weird. And the color scheme is very Magneto. I guess it's not a bad look, and throughout this storyline, not this issue, but the entire Onslaught storyline, his look changes to something far less interesting, I feel, in my opinion. So it's like Jean is going to be put to a terrifying test. And he says, hello, Jean, you do not know me, but trust me, we have much to discuss. And so she says, we're on the astral plane. How did I get here? Who are you? I brought you here, he tells her. Call me a sympathizer, a kindred spirit of the Homo superior race. Mutants, basically, right? Someone anxious to prepare you for your role as a key player in the days soon to come. The days in which human and mutant relations will finally, after decades of misdeeds and mistrust, reach their ultimate flashpoint. She's like, that's a little dramatic, isn't it? It's like, this sucks for mutants, but, it's bad, but we're working for a brighter tomorrow. And he's like, we share she was going to say, it's like a dream, your precious Professor Xavier's dream. So, he knows all about the X-Men. I mean, this is him from the back, right? He has kind of like this weird, turtle shell thing going on, kind of. He's like, I know it all too well, that dream. So then he's like letting her look into what's happening in the real world, and apparently Jean just had vanished. And she's able to read their minds of what's going on. Like this cop, like, I don't need this, and the girl was like, good riddance, and the other lady who was jealous, like, that's probably a shoplifter. Earthworm Jim. I didn't ever watch this show really. I think Homer Simpson, that voice actor did his voice in the cartoon. Great video game though. So Jean Grey is just going along with him, right? And they're starting to fly out, and he's just talking about there's a lot of fear and loathing in Westchester. She's like, yeah, I know, but you know a lot about us, but who are you? And he's like, I am frustration. And he looks down and he like obliterates that shop where they're at. She's like, oh fuck, what are you doing? Oh, wait a minute, that's just an illusion. Wish fulfillment, he says. And he's like, come on, let's go look at humans. I'm going to show you how they keep their secrets. And he's doing like kind of a Christmas Carol ghost thing where he takes her on and, where no one can see or hear them, but he's going to show them what's really going on in the world, how people really think. It cuts to this spot. And now, I don't know. Oh, it says X-Men Unlimited number 10. This happened in. So you got Beast here, and he's chained up. And he was lured here and imprisoned by a malevolent doppelganger. And he's been left to rot, but not to die. So, in the Age of Apocalypse, there were certain characters that came back from the Age of Apocalypse. There was 4 of them. There was Holocaust, there was the Sugar Man, it was fucking weird. There was X-Man, basically a duplicate of Cable, in a way. And then there was Beast. And in Age of Apocalypse, Beast was a fucking crazy, evil scientist. He was just not a good person. And that Beast had come back. But they had come back in the like 20 years prior to this or so. So Dark Beast, as they call him, is much older than this version. But that version of Beast has switched places with the good old Beast that we know here. So, and none of the X-Men know that. So Beast is he's imprisoned. He wants to give up, but he can't. And then he has this like little, I don't know what it is, a spout for water. And he like has to open it with his mouth. And he's like, just take a little because he needs to conserve it. And he's trying not to do it too much, but it accidentally opens up too much and basically wastes all the water. He's like, it's done. That's the end. There's no food, no water, nothing left but hope. And he sees the draining water. It's revealing a hidden trapdoor and maybe a way out of there, right? So now we go to somewhere else, and Jean and Onslaught are flying around. They go to the presidential campaign of Victor Creed in 1996. And he's talking about like how he spews his hatred for mutants down to the bones, using that as his platform. Where have we seen that before? And yeah, they're just listening in on Victor and his campaign manager. He's got a rock solid lead, but then this guy, whoever he is, he's thinking to himself. He's like, I don't care about mutants one way or another. All that matters is driving this bandwagon straight up Pennsylvania Avenue. I pull that off, they'll call me the Kingmaker. So this guy has his own like motives for whatever he's doing. And Apocalypse, Onslaught, no one is safe. He is telling, like really quick, it says, look at all these comics that Onslaught is crossing over in X-Men, Fantastic Four, Avengers, Cable, Thor, X-Force, Hulk, Iron Man, X-Men, Excalibur, Generation X, Captain America, Ghost Rider, Daredevil, Spider-Man, Wolverine, X-Factor, and even the Punisher. It doesn't say that, but I know there was a Punisher part. So he's like, there's like hypocrisy. She's like, yeah, but whatever. Like, people are like that. I've learned how to shut out those things. It's ultimately not important. and I surround myself with people who I trust. So, yeah, these guys are assholes, but you know what? That's what just happens in the world. Some people are good, some people are bad, some people are trying to be good, but maybe do bad things. Some people are bad, but think they're doing good. So it's just what it is. So you surround yourself with people that you know and you love and you trust. He's like, okay, let's go look at them then, he says. What is Onslaught's ultimate goal here? I'm not really sure. To convert Jean Grey to his side, maybe. So we're in Colorado now, and there's Psylocke, and she just went through a pretty harrowing ordeal where she got savagely beaten by Sabretooth and was going to die until Archangel and Wolverine saved her life with some weird mystical elements. And Archangel and Psylocke are a couple, and then for her to recuperate, they left. So they're kind of hanging out probably at Archangel's estate or something like that. But there's these weird shadows going on up above them, and they're moving around. He doesn't know where they came from. That's what's hurting her. She has weird shadow powers now because of that fucking mystical cure that they got. And she has this mark on her face that you can't really see anywhere, but it's a red mark, Crimson Dawn. But they're all forming together, and they go into like a human shape, and it starts talking, and she wakes up. She's like, get back. It's fucking Juggernaut. In an issue of Wolverine that I reviewed, which ironically is my most viewed episode, which is funny and weird, he was, after he gotten beaten by an Onslaught, he was being tended to at the Xavier mansion, the X-Men's mansion, and he was like in a coma, I think, and he woke up, busted out of there, he's freaking out, and he had a small little confrontation with Wolverine, but then a couple other people zapped him into nowhere, and he disappeared. They have no idea where he has been. And he's all confused, he doesn't know where he is. He's been someplace else in shadow. It's not clear where. Something drew him here. There's some connection between us, whatever, because of her weird shadow powers. But then he's like, it's my turn to talk. I've got something huge to say. I know a secret about somebody, and it's a killer. I've been thinking that if I don't tell the X-Men guys about it, it's gonna be too late for every one of us. So here it goes. I'm like, okay, cool. What's so important? So he has something to tell them, but as he tries to tell them, he can't. He comes across a barrier in his mind, a mental block, and he's like trying to fight it. He's like really wanting to say, but then he just surrenders and starts like demolishing the place that they're on, which is on like a cliffside or something. And they fall, like it tumbles down. And he doesn't care. He's like, the ground will make my fall. So he's going to go to Westchester. He's going to go talk to Xavier and the X-Men. He's like, if there's anybody that can pull this out of my mind, it's them. So he's on his way to the X-Mansion. So, at the X-Mansion, there's Onslaught and Jean Grey. They're zooming through, again, in the astral plane. And they look at Professor Xavier. He's like, don't talk. Okay, he's talking shit about Cyclops. He's like, you think you can tell me anything about Cyclops that I don't already know? And he's like, yeah, Cyclops hasn't had his own thought since he was 15. He's a lapdog of Professor X. And she's like, okay, now you're going to talk about him. I'm not taking you seriously. Like, we're the most powerful telepaths, these two right here. We've shared secrets none of the X-Men have ever known. Like, there's nothing that she knows that he knows that she doesn't. So he's like, okay, let's go into his head. This is kind of a weird and creepy image there. So they go inside, and they're looking down about when Professor Xavier like first met her as a little girl and knew that she was going to be very powerful, and then shows years later when she was Marvel Girl and had that costume with that mask. That's, I don't know, whatever. But she said, like, we've always shared a unique bond, and when he was forced to fake his own death in order to avert an alien invasion, I was the only one he trusted with the truth. So he faked his death, told her, no one else. Not any of the others. He's a father figure to me, and I know him like, oh, no other. And he's like, oh, really? I like that shot of Onslaught in the background with all the shadows. Just, it's very ominous and cool looking. It's like, you're so naive. You got to dig deeper. And it has this, like, this door comes, like, barreling up, this locked door, like, which is a metaphor for, like, a memory that's locked in the deep recesses of his mind. He just breaks it open. It's easy for Onslaught. How is he so powerful that he can, like, look at the inner thoughts of Professor Xavier? So she's looking at this memory after he burst in a hole through the door of early days, nice times, and it goes in Professor Xavier's head, and I'm pretty sure, I'm almost positive that this little scene here was actually in one of the X-Men issues early on, which is fucking creepy when you think about it, right? She's like, don't worry, sir, you remember how well you've trained us? He says, don't worry, as I could help worrying about the one I love. But I could never tell her I have no right. It's like, the one I love. And she's like, her eyes is in shock. So he's like, that's pretty fucked up. She's like, no, like, this isn't real. You created this. He says it's in his mind. You know it's real. But he's like, don't worry. He doesn't feel that way. He buried it deep down. He doesn't feel that way. But face the truth. He's no saint. He spent his entire adult life repressing every fear, every rage, every passion, every prejudice, every black thought he's ever experienced. A lifetime of repressed sin and anger festers in this place. No one, who knows what else lurks in here. She's like having a hard time, like, digesting all this information. And he's doing some weird shit with, like, more of these memory blocks that he has. And she's being... They're like coming around her, and they're taking her in. It's like secret fear, secret hatreds, the same dark, dank, shameful thoughts that everyone has and hides them. Take them, taste them, drink them in, everyone, and know the true Charles Xavier. All right, so now we got this guy. Oh God, I forgot about this. And this is Magneto. But he's much, much younger. The last time we saw Magneto, one, he was mind wiped in X-Men number 25 by Professor Xavier here because he pulled out Wolverine's skeleton, right? And he was doing a bunch of other crazy shit. So he was a vegetable, and he was on Avalon. He was being taken care of by the Acolytes and Colossus until Holocaust from the Age of Apocalypse was transported over and started fucking up Avalon, and Magneto fell to Earth, and they have not found him since. So now he's appearing, but as a much younger man. And we at this point don't know why or what's going on or how that happened. I mean, I kind of know now, and the reality is it's not very interesting, but whatever. So he's just kind of wandering, trying to figure out, he has no memory, and he's wandering around. He comes up to some kind of carnival or something, and he says his name is Joseph, and he's being greeted by these people. It's like, what, fucking Colonel Sanders here is giving him some chicken, and I think you'll find we take an interest in strangers around these parts, a mighty fierce interest, and all these people are looking at him weird, and then that's it. So it's showing all these other plot points that are going on that are related to the overall story somehow. So, goes back to Onslaught. He's still fucking with Jean Grey. He's like, who am I? I am a being unfettered by the shackles of hypocrisy. I am raw power, fully unleashed as you once were. So now he's showing him, like, you remember how you were the Phoenix Force? How powerful, how amazing that was? How just having all that power. He's like, you can have that again. Be my consort, embrace my power, and be yourself. Like, join me and you can have this. She's like, are you fucking crazy? If you think I'm going to agree to that, you're nuts. So she starts attacking him. And she's saying, like, I never do that. Like, you think just because you know all this, like, that's going to tempt me? They're just, like, debating moralities or whatever. And what use am I to you, since you know I won't follow you? He's like, you know I wouldn't do this. Like, who are you? I think you already know, Gene. And this is kind of a crazy, like, showing of his power, whether it's true or not. So he has the Phoenix Force. And we all know how powerful that cosmic entity can be, right? And it shows the Phoenix Force, and it shows his hand, and it grabs it and extinguishes it. Who am I? I am a great and terrible force beyond the comprehension of the human mind. I am a god, and for those who do not worship me, I am an angry god. He puts his hand like on her head, on her forehead here. And he says, know my name. I mean, I wonder who it is, right? But just showing that, like grabbing and extinguishing the Phoenix Force. Like if he can do that, if that's real, if he's that powerful to take out the Phoenix Force so easily, what are the others going to do? So, says, know my name. And then it goes back, there's a flash of light back at the dress shop. And Jean Grey is suddenly there. Like, she had vanished, but now she's back. She knew she was back, she was safe, and whoever he was no longer a threat. But she remembers his last words. Know my name. It says Onslaught. Now, that's not that's not real on her head. I think that's just like a weird mental representation of the knowledge she has. So, Onslaught. There's his introduction. Onslaught, I don't remember how all the information was coming out about the build-up for him, because there was no internet, there were no YouTube channels like this one or whatever else to talk to you about what's coming up. You know, if like a new movie comes out nowadays, there's so many like YouTube channels like breaking down trailers and have information, and you can learn so much about what potentially is going to happen. There was no real internet at the time, nothing that you could just get all this stuff from. So you got information from the comics, from Wizard Magazine, beats like this, just to like, oh, this is what's going to happen. And however they had explained it, they were like, X-Men needed a Galactus-sized threat. Not as big as Galactus, but just the threat of them. And Onslaught was going to be that. Like, as powerful as Galactus? Or as big as a threat as Galactus? I'm like, damn, that's crazy. And I also think that it was going to reveal who the traitor to the X-Men were during this storyline. That definitely answers that question. I'll get more into that in other videos. But that was something that was advertised at the time for Onslaught. So I remember back in the day, just like I was very intrigued by this whole concept. It kind of seems like, oh God, it's Onslaught, another villain like Apocalypse or Mr. Sinister. You know, like those guys had like years to develop and become actual threats. You're like, you're just going to throw another one with like a name Onslaught. Okay, whatever. But then you're like, okay, whatever. I'm kind of getting into it. I'm digging it. So we'll stop this video here, and I'm going to be diving into a lot of comics that involve Onslaught. So strap yourselves in. Look at all that I got to go through, and get ready for the onslaught of me talking about it over and over. Thank you. Hit like and subscribe. See ya.